everyone fears change. They like the status quo. Look at my job, I suppose, every 3 years, I'm completely redesigning what I do. Now we've got ChatGPT, we've got AI coming on, and I can see this is massively going to change the way I work. The first thing is to recognize that people are fearful of change, and the more you can do to get people excited and interested and involved in the change, the more easy it is to get people to accept it. The second thing is education, and that's because of another thing. When it comes to managing change, you've really got to get your higher managers to support and embrace the change. Make sure you educate them on the benefits and the weaknesses of the change. Failure is never great, but it's part of the change process. It's quite common, unfortunately, in IT projects, especially when they're new, cutting edge, for them not to work. So business leaders need to understand this when they're agreeing to do a project and work out where the cut-off points are going to be, because there's nothing worse than keep chucking money into a project that's not delivering and just the time slipping, the budget slipping. So these things happen. So I think it's really important to have a change culture in your organization and get used to this idea that change is incremental and it's normal to be having change. If you leave things static for too long, it can be very difficult to persuade people that change is necessary. As a leader, you should be thinking about constantly changing stuff, figuring out when things are not working and then correcting them. And if you're not doing that, then your projects are going to fail quite a lot. There's kind of two approaches when it comes to projects. There's the incremental approach, which I like, where you do a little bit and a little bit and a little bit, and then there's the big bang thing. Now the big bang thing is very exciting, but comes with a lot of risks. And as a manager, as a leader, you should always, when a project's finished, do the lessons learned, work out what could you do better, what went well, what didn't go very well, write it up, send it to all of the people. Failure is never comfortable, but it's part and parcel of making change. And if you're willing to fail, then you will be more successful. If you're not using the industry standard tool for your industry, so in my case, professional services automation tools, Autotask, ConnectWise, then you're leaving money on the table, because the people that write this software have already solved a lot of the problems in your business, and you may not realize how powerful these tools are until you implement them. Now, it's quite hard to get these tools over the line, don't get me wrong, but the most important thing to realize, if you've got 15 different tools that you're trying to plug in together, or if you've got Excel spreadsheets or little bits of code that you've written, or even worse, created your own program, it's much more effective, especially for small businesses, just to use the industry standard tool. And it may seem really expensive to do that, but the thing is, you're not seeing the whole holistic benefits from it, because you're just seeing one little problem that you're trying to solve, but there's lots of problems that the people that wrote this software have already solved for other people in your industry. So I certainly found when I moved to a PSA tool, in our case, there was lots of problems that got solved that I didn't even realize were a problem that existed. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Think about the peripheral benefits from spending more money on this one tool that does everything. But you do actually have to use the tool. So this is going to take time, and you're going to have to break the problem down. It's not a big bang thing. You want to be incrementally solving the problem. So every few weeks you implement a little bit more of the solution. It's very powerful to work this way, and it will really help your business grow and scale. Buying an all-powerful tool that does everything makes the tea. But the problem with that is implementation. And often I see happens is people have got this very powerful tool that does all this stuff, but they're not using it. Or they're using a very small part of it, or even worse, they're using part of the tool that is not designed to do what's being used for, because the people that wrote this software, they imagined how all the people in your industry work, and they've got a process, and your process may not be aligned to theirs. So you need to adopt the process that the software uses rather than the other way around. Getting stuff over the line. This is always a big problem. And if you've got a tool that you've got and you're not using all the features that it has, that shows me that either the tool's not very good, and if it's the industry leader in your industry, it probably is, or you're putting up barriers because of the workflow that you've got at the moment. So it's worth reaching out to the provider of this tool, getting some more training, some more understanding of the process, or bringing in a consultant that specializes in that tool and really getting it over the line, because otherwise, first of all, you're wasting money, but secondly, you're wasting the efficiency of your team, because the people that wrote this software have already made it optimized for the way that your business works. So something really important to think about. So don't do the big bang, but incrementally get the tool over the line until you're using almost everything that it does. And it's a big mistake not to use most of the features and rely on one feature that it wasn't designed to do. you need some kind of documentation management system process. SharePoint's fine for this, or a wiki, like Wikipedia. There's loads of tools out there. Probably the systems that you're using already have some kind of documentation process. But the important thing is this: have a documentation culture. Document how the business works. So imagine you've got a big folder and you open it, you do A, B, C, D, and you've got a process. Then it's not in your head, you get hit by a bus, somebody else can follow that process. To start the process, just create a document, at the top of it, write the name of the process and write down the top 3 steps. So for example, where we're going to document making a cup of tea. Create a document called process making cup of tea. Step 1, boil the kettle. Step 2, add the water. Step 3, add the tea bag. Step 4, milk. Save. The point is now it exists as a process. There's loads of steps missing, like we need to put water in the kettle, or we need to go and buy tea bags or whatever, but the point is that the process exists. Then you can move on to something else, and then maybe someone else in your team will come back to you and go, well, this process is no use. One thing you can do with process documentation, which I really love, is create a Loom video. And you can use Loom for free. I use it all the time to create documentation and quick videos for customers. I highly recommend Loom. You can just work through the process, talk through it as you're doing it. It doesn't need to be professional standard, it's just for you and your team. But then you've got a process. You can embed that Loom video in the document, and then later on somebody else or you can break that down until eventually the document's finished and you've got a step-by-step process. It's really important to have a document culture in every business, because otherwise it's all in your head. It relies on you. If you're not available, nothing can happen. Make sure you're using tools like Loom. You can use Otter.ai to document the process as well. You can just talk if you want. But the most important thing is starting the documentation. Once you've started it and you've got a whole load of documents, it's so much easier to bring that all together. Think about when you're creating documentation, you've got to get it started. That's the most important thing. And then using a tool, getting it finished, that will come with time. Having a change culture. I talked about involving people in change. I talked about documenting your change. I talked about peripheral benefits, getting stuck on change and how you can break the problem down. I talked about the fear of change, failure, communications. There's loads of things when it comes to change management. It's such a big area. But the important thing, I think, really is to always be looking to change. And in IT, it's easy for us because every 3 years we're just completely starting again. But in your business, you may have been running it 20, 50 years. It's quite hard to get that change made unless you're incrementally improving. Look at the thing that's eating up the time, especially your time as a manager or leader. Fix it, cut it down, make it simpler, make it automated. There's so many things you can do, and it cuts your costs, it makes your business more reliable, more scalable, and your customers love it because it's more consistent. So I hope that's useful. Let me know if you've got anything that I've missed, or if you've got any thoughts in the comments. And thanks so much for watching these videos. I really appreciate it.